Welcome to Come Get Woo Woo. We're your hosts, Becky and Ro, here to hold space for the unseen, the unspoken, and the deeply felt. This is a place for seekers, for those who sense that there's more, for those who hear between the words, feel beyond the room, and know without knowing why.
Together, we'll explore the language of spirit, the clarity of your clairs, and the signs that rise up when you're ready to notice. You're not imagining it, you're remembering it. This is Come Get Woo Woo.
What if the underworld isn't a destination on a map or a distant, scary place you only visit when things fall apart? What if it's something much closer, like a quiet hum of your own life running in the background? Think of it as a quiet storage room where nothing is ever truly thrown away. Every conversation you didn't finish, every feeling you set aside for later, every version of you that didn't get its moment is still there. They aren't gone. They're still plugged in, drawing a little bit of your energy. That heaviness we feel sometimes isn't a sign of failure. It's just the natural weight of carrying a few too many unfinished things at once. If you've ever felt like your life is buffering, like you're waiting for something to finally click into place, if you've ever noticed the quiet hum of unfinished business underneath the perfectly fine Tuesday afternoon, or if you've ever felt the weight that isn't quite a burden, but more like something keeping you from drifting too far, this episode is for you. Hey, woo-woo seekers. Welcome back to Come Get Woo-Woo with Becky and Ro. I'm Becky.
And I'm Ro. Today we're stepping into the underworld, but not in the way most people think of it. We're leaving behind the spooky versions and the idea that this is a dark place where you get stuck. Instead, we're looking at it as a quiet workshop that exists right alongside your everyday life. And just to ground this isn't a psychological system or something that you need to figure out perfectly. It's a simple way of understanding what you're already feeling. In this episode, we're going to walk through the 5 distinct rooms of this inner space. We'll talk about why this is a no performance zone, where the only thing that matters is raw honesty. We'll explore the threshold of readiness, that moment when something in you knows it's finally time to actually look at the truth instead of just trying to push through it. And most importantly, we'll show you how to move through these layers without feeling stuck. We'll talk about how to use your own body as a compass to navigate, and how something as simple as noticing can be a shift in everything. We're not here to fix you, because in this space, you're not broken. You're just a phase of quiet preparation.
And before we step into the underworld, we want to pause for just a quick moment. If you've been enjoying this journey with us and something has resonated or supported you, we truly appreciate you following the podcast and leaving a review. It helps more than you think.
Those likes, review, and subscriptions really do make a difference. They help this podcast reach more people who are curious, open, or just starting on their path. And that's something we really care about. Getting this into the ears of the seekers who really need it. So thank you for being a part of helping this grow. So Becky, what is the underworld?
The underworld isn't a destination, it's a frequency. It's that internal hum you feel when life starts to move a little slower. Think of it like the background apps running in your phone. Every conversation you didn't finish, every emotion to be dealt with later, and every version of yourself you had to hide is still plugged in, drawing tiny bits of energy from your battery power. That heaviness we feel on the random Tuesday usually isn't a sign of failure. It's the natural weight of a backpack that has gathered far too many stones along the trail. It's important to distinguish this spiritual slowing down from clinical depression. While the underworld feels dense and internal, it is a functional process of integration. If you find your heaviness feels like a persistent void, or if it interferes with your ability to function or care for yourself, please reach out to a mental health professional. This roadmap is a tool for spiritual exploration, not a substitute for clinical care. While the surface world is fast and bright, the inner space feels like cool earth, solid and quiet. It isn't trying to trip you up. It's asking you to stop sprinting. You can't sort through a storage unit while running past all of the boxes. The same is true for your inner world. This density isn't a trap. It's a protective boundary, like a seed in the winter. You aren't buried. You're in the phase of a quiet preparation. The pressure is there to hold you steady while you decide what to keep and what to let go of.
I could totally relate to the many apps on my phone running in the background.
I agree. I relate more to the, trying to get rid of everything in a storage unit, but ignoring all the boxes. I think this one's going to hit a little closer to home than I would like. I don't know about you.
I totally agree. As we were writing this, I'm like, check.
I agree. Now, Ro, you have an interesting comparison that you would like to share. You want to go ahead?
Yes, it's the shadow versus the container. And it helps to see the difference between your shadow and this space. If the shadow is the specific content, the old hurt, or the hidden anger, then the underworld is just a room where those things are kept safe. It's a compost bin for your life. Just like a garden turns old leaves into rich soil, this space breaks down your past until it becomes something you can actually use. It doesn't hold your history to punish you. It holds it until you have the tools to finally finish the story. The underworld is what we call the no performance zone, because it is the absolute end of the spiritual hustle. On the surface, we're taught that if we could find a wound, we must heal it. If we find a flaw, we must affirm it away. But in these 5 layers, that kind of work is actually a form of performance. It's trying to prove to yourself or the universe that you're doing the work. In this space, just noticing means you are finally dropping the role of the healer or the seeker and just being the witness. It's the difference between looking at a tangled knot and trying to untie it versus simply looking at the knot and saying, that is a very tight, complicated knot. One requires effort and an outcome. The other requires only truth. When you're in the no performance zone, you aren't looking for a solution. You are looking for the texture of the moment, just noticing the hum of the room without trying to change the tune. If you find a heavy thought in the 3rd layer, you don't argue with it. You don't try to reframe it into something positive. You simply stand next to it and acknowledge its existence. The act of just noticing is actually a functional tool. By refusing to perform healing, you stop feeding the stories with your energy. You are essentially starving the background apps of the power that they need to stay plugged in. The no performance rule is what allows the compost to actually happen. If you are constantly stirring the pile to fix it, the natural breakdown can't occur. You have to let it sit in the dark, unbothered, to turn into soil.
That's so interesting.
I was about to say the same thing. It is. It is very interesting. I never sat down to simply just notice something like that, you know?
It's just very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
it takes it to a different level. One, the sitting back and letting it play out and see how it goes. It's not something that I don't think we're actually, it's not in our nature to do.
Oh, no, we want to fix things.
Yeah, very
and
interesting.
being mothers, we want to fix everything.
Oh my gosh, yes. The most relatable way to understand this is to think of it as the truth-only zone. It is the one place in your entire life where you don't have to be empowered. You don't have to be the high vibe, and you don't even have to be okay. If you are in the fourth layer and you feel a massive inherited weight, the performance would be trying to release it. The noticing is simply saying, this is incredibly heavy and I don't know how to carry it. That's the moment you are honest. The pressure of the underworld shifts and you aren't passing a test. You're simply matching the frequency of the room. You are no longer performing strength. So the room can finally offer you a grounding. It turns the just noticing from a boring, passive task into a powerful, quiet rebellion against the always-on culture of the surface. So the secret of this season is that everything you've pushed aside isn't waiting to overwhelm you. It's waiting to be integrated. When you stop fighting the slowness, the atmosphere changes. The weight starts to feel less like a burden and more like grounding. The kind of weight that keeps the kite from blowing away. If you're in a season that feels heavier than usual, you haven't lost your way. You're just stepped into an inner workshop. The unfinished parts of you finally get the attention that they need. So they can be transformed into a lighter version of wisdom that you can carry forward with ease. So this actually reminds me very much of the kind of the go with the flow type of thing. So you're not trying to fix anything. You're just like, okay, like I've talked to you about is, I always, when I journal, I actually say, thank you for conspiring in my favor for my highest and greatest good. So you're not blaming anything. You're just going with the flow.
What really gave me the tingles while you were speaking was saying that something is incredibly heavy and you don't know how to carry it. So that to me was powerful because it's like, instead of saying this is incredibly heavy and I need to do something with it, or you blame someone or you ask for help, you're just saying you just don't know.
This just came to me. It's like you're almost sitting in vulnerability and being okay with it. I don't know a single person out there that likes to be vulnerable. And this kind of gives you a pass to be vulnerable.
Well, I like the way you put that. Yep.
Like we said earlier, this hits a lot of checks.
Yes, it does. Before you fully step into the underworld, there is a distinct moment of pause, a threshold. It isn't a wall. It isn't a resistance in the way you think of it. It's more of that split second of silence before you start a difficult conversation. It's your inner self quietly asking, are you ready to actually look at this? Or are you trying to fix it so it goes away? In your day-to-day life, this threshold doesn't look like a mysterious figure. It looks like that sudden not today feeling when you think about a big project, a lingering hesitation before you pick up the phone, a sense of things are buffering as if life is waiting for you to catch up with yourself. This isn't because you are being held back. It's because the underworld requires your presence, not your push. You can't life hack your way through this space. This threshold is simply a safety check. It waits for you to choose to be honest with yourself. The moment you stop trying to power through the heaviness and instead of just breathe into it, the door disappears. You aren't passing a test. You're just matching the frequency of the room. Once you start performing in it, you've traded the hustle for the hum, and the real work of the inner workshop begins. I've done all of those. Yeah.
Yep. And it's very reflective.
Yes. Yep.
That kind of brings us to the heart of our the underworld. Think of it like finally stepping inside your own house after a long day of pretending to be on for the rest of the world. You aren't falling into a pit. You're landing in the first of the 5 Subearth rooms. The transition feels like the moment the elevator finally opens. The noise of the surface world, the shoulds, the emails, the roles fades out, and you're met with that cool earth atmosphere we've talked about before. It's quiet, it's stable, and most importantly, it's private. In these rooms, the heaviness you felt on the surface starts to make sense. You realize it wasn't just random stress. It was the specific boxes in those rooms asking to be unpacked. You can finally take off the professional hat or the brave face. These rooms don't require you to do anything other than exactly who you are in this moment. The background noise starts to turn into clarity. Each room holds a different layer of what you've set aside. The unfinished conversations, the tucked away dreams, the compost of your experiences. You aren't there to fix everything at once. You're just there to be present with what is in that specific room. And as you settle into that first layer, the density of the underworld actually starts to feel like grounding. You realize that you aren't stuck. You're just finally standing on solid, honest ground. Kind of saying to yourself, oh, I'm not lost. I'm finally home with myself. The underworld isn't an environment. The Subearths are just layers within it. When you say, I'm in the underworld, you're describing the season. Life feels heavier, quieter, and more internal. The Subearths describe where you are within that season. Are you sorting through the surface clutter of the week? Are you noticing something that keeps repeating? Or have you dropped into something deeper that feels older than your current life? The underworld tells you you're in it. The Subearths tell you what kind of work is happening. I think that's very interesting.
It is. It's kind of very deep for a no performance.
I know, it kind of is. You know, they say no performance, but yet you seem to be doing a lot of work without doing anything at all.
Right. Absolutely.
All right.
Think of the first layer as the mudroom of your soul. When you walk into a house, the mudroom is where you drop your coat, kick off your shoes, and leave the debris of the outside world behind. In this first layer, the surface hum is the loudest. This is where the most recent unfinished business lives. The email you didn't send, the frustration you swallowed this morning, the fine you said when you weren't actually fine. The texture is heavy, damp soil. It's tactile. You can feel the weight of your immediate day-to-day choices here. It's not deep. It's just accumulated dust of living that you haven't had a chance to wash off. And the goal is simple: acknowledgement. You don't have to solve anything in this first layer. You have to look at the coat you're wearing and say, wow, this is heavy, and finally take it off. We start in the first layer because your system needs to decompress. If you try to go straight to the deepest, oldest layers of the psyche, the 5th Subearth, it would be too much of a shock. The first layer acts as a buffer. It's where you transition from doing to being. As you sit in this first room, the performance of your day-to-day begins to melt away. You realize the heaviness you felt on the surface wasn't a problem. It was just these immediate echoes asking for a moment of your time. I just like the way that going to take your coat off, your day's day is in this little first layer. And I love the analogy that you're taking that first layer and hanging up your coat.
Agreed. It simplifies a very heavy feeling, and I know it's going to get heavier as we go deeper in the layers. So it's kind of a nice way to understand, it's like the first step.
Yeah, I agree. How's the second step go?
Well, as you sink from the first layer, which is the damp soil, you start to feel a little bit more of that thick clay. It's more tactical. In the first layer, you were just taking off your coat. Here, you're starting to feel the weight of how you've been showing up for other people. This isn't just about what you did. It's about the energy left over from the interactions with everyone else. It's a realm of social resonance. In this room, you'll find things you didn't say to keep the peace, like swallowing words from disagreements with a partner, that tiny bit of resentment you felt when you said yes, but you meant no, the lingering energy of a heavy meeting or a draining friendship. These aren't deep traumas yet. These are social background apps. They are the strings that you still pull taut between you and other people. In the second Subearth, you aren't trying to fix those relationships. You're simply noticing how much energy it takes to hold these strings. The second Subearth asks you to stop managing your relationships for just a moment. Up on the surface, you are constantly adjusting your volume to fit into a room. But here, in the thick clay, you are allowed to just feel your own edges. It's a place where you realize, I'm carrying a lot of other people's expectations right now. It's the relatable shift instead of the spiritual test. Think of this layer as the clearing of the social cache. Just like a browser getting slow when it remembers too many sites, your spirit gets heavy when it's still trying to process every interaction you had this week. By staying in this second layer, you are letting those social strings go slack. You're giving yourself permission to not be the friend, the partner, or the coworker for just a moment.
I really like that. I really like it. Gives you the permission to feel those things.
I mean, I think about how many times I might have interacted differently with somebody during the day, or I wish I would have said it this way. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
So what about the third?
Well, if the first layer was the to-do list and the second was the people list, the third Subearth is the room of the inner narrative. As you sink deeper, the thick clay of the social world gives way to something more structural, like cool layered stone or shale. It feels older. You aren't just dealing with this morning's stress or yesterday's arguments anymore. You are entering the space where long-term habits and self-talk live. In this room, you find the stories you've been telling yourself for years. These aren't the loud, dramatic traumas. They are the quiet, repetitive loops that run in the back of your mind. The stories. I'm always the one who, the delays. I'll start when the subtle persistence, not enoughness, that we usually drown out with podcast work or scrolling. In the third Subearth, that hum, becomes very clear. It's the sound of your own internal soundtrack playing on loop. And just like the second layer, there is zero fixing allowed here. This is very important distinction. On the surface, if we hear ourselves saying, I'm not enough, we immediately try to affirm our way out of it. We try to argue with the thought or reframe it. In the sub-earth, you do none of that. Don't argue. If the record says you're behind in life, you don't say, no, I'm doing great. Don't affirm it. You're trying to drown it out with positive thinking. Just listen. You simply stand in the room, listen to the record playing, and say, oh, that's the story I tell myself a lot. I see it. This is the heart of the incubation we talk about. By simply noticing the story without trying to change it, the story starts to lose its charge. Think of it like a light left on an empty room. When you stop feeding the story with your resistance or your defense, the bulb eventually runs out of power. The stone of this layer is cool and stable. It can hold the weight of these old stories so you don't have to anymore. It's like living near a train track. After a while, you stop hearing the train. The third sub-earth is the moment you finally stop, sit down, and actually hear the train passing. You don't try to stop the train. You acknowledge it. There is a train. It's loud. It's been running through my house for 20 years. Wow.
That is so interesting. It reminds me of, my ex loved to argue, absolutely loved to argue, and he wanted to be proved wrong. And just like, so here's my little story because I always got one, right? So he wanted to argue with me. Now, I did pretty much all of planning for our wedding and everything. And he was determined, and he told me that the girls' dresses were a certain color. And I was like, no, it wasn't. And he's like, well, prove me wrong. And I'm like, no, I don't need to. And I walked away. Pissed him off like you wouldn't believe because I wouldn't give him the argument. I just walked away from it because I didn't need to prove myself. And I think that's what it reminded me of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that you just notice the stories that you tell.
I always have a story too, right?
What really got from here was noticing that the stories that you tell yourself and just noticing it, not trying to like say, I suck, not trying to say, no, you don't. It's just seeing it. It's like, I see you.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So the transition into the fourth sub-earth is a significant shift. First three layers were about the clutter of your daily life, your relationships, and your habits. The fourth layer moves into the legacy body. Think of the fourth sublayer as a room for ancestral echoes and collective weight. As you sink into the shale, if you will, of your own stories, you hit something much more solid, a deep bedrock. It's the foundational stone of the psyche. In this layer, the air feels even stiller, and you might start to feel the presence of cool water, the slow underground river of emotions that have been flowing long before you were even born. In this room, the unfinished business isn't even yours. It's the stuff you've carried on behalf of your family, your lineage, and even a collective culture. It's the inherited fears, like the scarcity mindset that started 3 generations ago. The family secrets that no one talked about, but everybody felt. The roles you were cast in before you even knew how to speak. The strong ones, the peacemaker, the black sheep. In the fourth sub-earth, the hum isn't a broken record of your own thoughts anymore. It's more like the deep, low-frequency drone that has been playing in the background of your entire family tree. Just like the layers above, the rule remains No fixing, no healing, no sorting. On the surface, we try to break the cycle or heal the lineage, but in this deep bedrock, that kind of effort is too loud. The fourth sublayer asks for something much simpler: recognition. You don't have to forgive your ancestors or release the burden yet. You don't need the family tree or the therapy sessions to understand why your grandmother was the way that she was. You simply stand in the cool water of the room and acknowledge, this weight didn't start with me. I can feel the pressure of the things that were never finished long before I got here. This is the part of the quiet workshop where the compost gets very rich. By simply noticing that the burden isn't all yours, you stop taking it personally. You realize that the heaviness you've been carrying isn't a sign that you are broken. It's just a sign that you are part of a much larger story that's still being processed. It's like finding an old, heavy trunk in the attic of a house that you just moved into. You didn't put the stuff in the trunk, and you don't even know what's in there yet. But you can feel the weight of it when you try to move it. In the fourth Subearth, you aren't opening the trunk. You're just standing in the attic looking at it, saying, that's a very heavy trunk. It's been here for a very long time. I think that's really, wow, interesting.
Yes, I agree.
I know you and I have talked about, it's recognizing those patterns and just turning the other way, because we're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, I agree. You're just realizing it's there, I think.
Yeah, you're just realizing it's there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Very cool. Yeah. Sometimes it can be hard saying, oh, that really came from my lineage. And sometimes it's very simple and it's like, oh, yeah, I got that from mom and dad who got it from grandma.
You can think of addiction, like alcoholism or something along those lines in that aspect. That's a lineage thing.
Right.
Very interesting.
All of this is like fascinating.
It's fascinating. Yes, I know it's very deep and it's very heavy. And for those of you that are still with us, thank you.
Yes. We're sorry you went so deep. We had no other choice but to do it this way. Oh, we had choices. We could have taken the mythology route, but...
And as fascinating as those stories are, I know for a fact that I would have butchered every single name in there. And that isn't any fun.
I would too. I butcher the English language. So yeah, for me.
I'll leave the Greek mythology to somebody that knows how to pronounce those words.
Yeah.
But they're great stories. If anybody actually goes into the depth of that, God bless you, because they're fascinating stories. We were fascinated by it, but
oh yeah, I agree.
That was a little too yeah. It was a little too heavy than what we wanted to go into. So
I agree. Well, we're transitioning into the fifth Subearth, and this is the final descent of the Underworld. If the first 4 layers were about your day, your people, your habits, and your history, the 5th layer is about your original self. Think of the 5th Subearth as the foundation room or the crystalline core. As you sink past your ancestral bedrock and the underground rivers, the texture changes one last time. It isn't mud, clay, or stone anymore. It feels like pure compression, like being at the very center of the earth where the pressure is so immense it creates diamonds. The air here is perfectly still. There is no hum left, only a deep, profound silence. In this room, you find the parts of you that existed before the world told you who to be. This is the soul storage for the version of you that didn't get to fully exist yet. The raw curiosity you had as a child, the untouched talents and desires that have been waiting in the dark, and the pure, quiet essence of you without the roles, the stories, or the baggage of the other 4 layers. In the 5th subearth, you aren't looking at the clutter or the problems. You are looking at the original blueprint. In this final room, noticing reaches its peak. There is absolutely no performance left because there is nothing left to hide behind. You have dropped the coat of the first room, the strings in the second, the record in the third, and the trunk in the fourth. You don't have to go looking for your purpose or your soul's mission. You don't try to bring the seed to life yet. You simply sit in the stillness and acknowledge, underneath everything I've been carrying, this is what is left. I am still here. This is where the compost officially becomes gold. The pressure of the final layer isn't trying to crush you. It's trying to refine you. By standing in this absolute silence and just noticing your own existence, you are allowing the transformation we talked about to finish. This is the seed in the winter moment at its most powerful. You aren't buried. You are being remade by the very pressure of your own truth. It's like when the power goes out in your house at night. At first it's jarring, but then once the hum of the refrigerator and the glow of the screens are gone, you realize how quiet it actually is. You can finally hear your own breathing, and you realize that even in the dark, the house is still there. You are still there. Wow.
Wow. You know, there is that profound statement that you made. All of that pressure becomes a diamond.
Yes.
And that is exactly what you're striving for. It just all comes together. It's like once you sit in the stillness of all of those different layers, that's when you can become you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's a word for it, but
it's very, very profound.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So if you're not sure where you are in this process, or if you're even crossed the threshold, check your body. Your physical sensations are the most honest map you have. If your mind is racing and your body feels buzzy or anxious, you are likely still in the surface or the threshold stage. You're still doing mode. If you feel the physical weight in your chest or shoulders and your thoughts are looping in the same old stories, you've landed in the pattern layers, the second or the third subearth. Now, if your breathing has slowed down and the noise of the world feels far away, you've gone deeper and you're into the 4th or the 5th subearth. We aren't elevators that only stop on one floor at a time. We are more like a house with all the lights on. You absolutely inhabit multiple rooms simultaneously. In fact, that's usually how life actually feels. On any given Tuesday, your internal map may look like you're doing the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th subearth. You're annoyed by a passive-aggressive email. Well, that's going to be the 1st subearth. Now, that email triggers an old I'm not appreciated loop. Well, that's going to be the 3rd subearth. Then you get somewhere deep within it all, and you still feel a sense of quiet, unshakable stillness. That is the 5th subearth. You aren't failing at the underworld. You feel all of this at once. You're just multidimensional. When you realize you can be in multiple rooms at once, the pressure to be somewhere else disappears. You don't have to get out of the 1st layer to experience the stillness of the 5th. You don't have to fix the third layer, stories, to feel the fifth subearth, peace. By acknowledging that these rooms coexist, you stop trying to solve your way down. You realize that while the weather might be heavy and rainy in the first and the second subearth, the climate of the fifth subearth is always still. If you're feeling overwhelmed by all these layers at once, use a simple check system. I am experiencing the noise of the first layer, and I am also the silence of the fifth. That brings it all together really beautifully, doesn't it?
It does. And I certainly feel probably 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 layers at one time in 1 hour.
Agreed. But I also don't feel as heavy as I was in the beginning. You know, where it's okay to feel all of that at one time.
Yeah. And what I really like about the Underworld is you don't have to fix anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just acknowledging that it's there.
What kind of that go with the flow, floating down the river type of feeling.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have rapids. Okay.
Very true. Even though the work in these rooms are just noticing, that doesn't mean you have to stand in the dark alone. Think of these as sensory anchors, as the internal handrails of the Underworld. They are there to keep you steady when the heaviness starts to feel a bit too real. Since the Underworld is a no performance zone, these aren't tools to fix anything. They are like the internal handrails to help you stay steady while you look at what's there. Becky, I know we put a list of supportive elements to the layers to help the noticing feel safer and more grounded. Do you want to start us off?
Sure. If the silence or the heavy earth feels like it's too much, you can reach for these sensory anchors to remind your body that it's safe to just be present. One of the first ones is when you are in the first or the second subearth, imagine the smell of the forest floor after a heavy rain. That deep mineral scent, this reminds your nervous system that you aren't buried. You are in the garden of transformation. If the third and the fourth layer feels loud with old stories or ancestral weight, imagine placing your palms against a large ancient boulder. Feel its temperature. It is steady, it is unmoving, and is more than capable of holding the weight while you simply watch the patterns. Instead of a scary silence of the fifth layer, listen for the low frequency of the earth itself, like a distant, steady pulse of the ocean tide. It's the sound of the universe breathing with you. It's very visual grounding tools.
Yeah, and very easy to do as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I definitely am going to be trying some of them.
Could try it with the gnome, with the stone.
Right? Yes. Use the elementals to help you do it.
Yes. Because we aren't fixing, we need a way to move the energy so it doesn't just sit on your chest. You can use specific breath to help you notice without attaching. The release breath, inhale through your nose, noticing the specific tab or string you found. Then exhale with the soft, audible sound, like you're fogging up a mirror. This doesn't make the problem go away, but it creates a tiny bit of space between you and the thing you're noticing. It says, I see you, but I am not you.
I do this without even knowing that I'm doing this. Whew. Just kind of relax. And then it's almost like a reset for me.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah. So if you feel lost or overwhelmed by being in multiple rooms at once, use this simple internal compass to help you navigate. If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed by the sheer amount of tabs open in the first few layers, reach for the image of the sacred tree. These would be the meditations that you find on our YouTube channel, Woo Woo Seekers, or on our website. Visualize its roots intertwining with the very soil you are standing in. This reminds your nervous system that you have a foundation. You aren't floating in a void. You are rooted to the earth. The density isn't a trap. It's a weighted blanket that offers you total privacy from the noise of the surface. When the layers feel exposed, the itch of impatience, that urge to hurry up and fix things, shift your focus to the damp clay. Imagine the cool, thick texture of it against your palms. The physical sensation acts as a reminder that you cannot rush the compost. Just as the garden takes its own time to turn old leaves into soil, your psyche is on its own clock. Let the cool earth texture slow your pulse until it matches the rhythm of the room. And finally, if the deeper layers feel too quiet, or if you're struggling with the sense of heaviness, listen for a slow tide. Even deep underground, there is a low frequency hum, like a distant pulse of the ocean. Use the breath to match that rhythm. The slow inhale to notice the weight, and the long audible exhale can create just the tiny bit of space between you and the thing that you're noticing. This breath doesn't make the problem go away, but it reminds you that I see this, but I am not this. It turns the underworld from a place where you are stuck to a sanctuary where you are simply supported while you wait for the transformation to finish. You know, as heavy as this seems, it actually is so helpful.
I agree. Yeah. And the tools are pretty easy to do to help.
Definitely agree. Very, very natural. You know, they don't seem out of too wild and crazy, I guess is the word. Very natural tools.
Though it does bring me to your first statement. If you're feeling too heavy, and you should go to a mental health professional.
Very true. I think therapists, everybody should be in therapy.
Yes. They give you special tools to help you.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Or breathing exercises or anything like that. Those are great tools.
Mm-hmm. As we close today's episode, these 5 sub-earths, they're not places you have to go find. They're just different ways your inner world shows up when something is ready to be seen. Sometimes it feels like clutter from your day. Sometimes it feels like something that keeps repeating. Sometimes it feels older, heavier, like it didn't start with you. And sometimes it's just very quiet. None of that means anything is wrong. It just means something is moving. So instead of trying to fix it, just try this over the next few days. Notice where you are. When that midday buffering hits, when something feels heavier than it should, just pause and check in. Am I in the surface of today? Am I in something that keeps repeating? Or am I touching something deeper? You don't have to do anything with it. Just saying, I see where I am, is enough to start changing your relationship to it. So if any part of this helped you feel a little bit more orientated inside yourself, then we did what we came here to do. Really love this episode, Becky. And I feel like I really learned a lot, especially about the layers. And since we've built this episode, I've been trying to go and see myself.
I know, I agree with you. I find it easy. It's okay to sit in silence and not do a dang thing.
I agree. Although silence doesn't work very well for me because I'm just me. But I get to say, I see you.
It's your Libra. Yet again. Rose in her head.
Always, yeah. Yes. So what are we doing next week?
Well, this is fun. In our next episode, we'll be stepping into the mineral realm, the oldest layer of the planet, where everything begins. If the underworld shows you how your inner world is structured, the mineral kingdom shows you what that structure was made of. Here are the 2 words for this week from the Woo Woo Seekers Journal, A Journey for Your Signs and Symbols, Book 1. Hope and insecurity. See what rises and see what resonates. I think that those are 2 very appropriate words with this episode, don't you think?
I agree. Hope and insecurity. Yep.
You can find the meditations for these words on our YouTube channel at Woo Woo Seekers. All of the words are also available through our newsletter at comegetwoowoo.com. With new meditations released the first of every month. You want to deepen your own journey and explore our meditation series, The Sacred Tree or The Soul's Garden, also available on our YouTube channel at Woo Woo Seekers. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for getting woo-woo with us today. If something sparked a memory, a message, or just made you smile, share it with a fellow seeker because the journey is always better when you can grow together. Be sure to find us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Woo Woo Seekers so you can like, follow, and subscribe.
You can also follow us by visiting our website, comegetwoowoo.com. We are so much more than just another podcast. We're building a community of seekers just like us. We love hearing from you. If you've got signs, symbols, or stories that you want to share, email us at woowooseekers@gmail.com. Or any questions about today's episode, you can email us at comegetwoowoo@gmail.com.
Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and as always, come get woo-woo with us.